right, so I put out polls now and then, hearing from or asking people to tell me what it is they'd like to know more about, and often I get requests for information about supplements as well as nutrition. So nutrition tends to get a lot of votes when I do the polls, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about nutrition. So just so you understand, the average medical doctor or DO in America has less than 12 hours of nutritional education, and that's really superficial. It's, here's a book, take a quiz, you can do it as a group. They really don't emphasize it. In my nursing program, when I was getting my registered nurse licensure, we had to take one semester of nutrition, which was more than I got in medical school, to be perfectly honest. But it was standard nutrition. It was, how many calories does a gram of carbs or a gram of protein or gram of fat have? And so those are things that I understood. And then it was very superficial in respect to what individual needs are. We learned how to calculate basic metabolic rate and caloric needs and stuff like that. But it really wasn't implemented in practice. It was just a theory class. So I have been doing integrative and functional medicine training for 12 years now, and I would say 75% of that is nutrition. So I would hazard that I have more nutritional education at this point in my life than many dietitians. An understanding of alternative nutrition plans versus the standard food pyramid and caloric-based diets. So I get super frustrated if I refer my patients to a dietitian. I will say conventional dietitian. There are some amazing, awesome functional dietitians and integrative dietitians in Manhattan. We're very fortunate to have a couple of groups that focus on holistic nutrition. But what I will say is I have had the experience of a patient with diabetes that was on insulin, type 2 diabetes. So he didn't have to have insulin if we could get his blood sugars controlled. So had him on a low carb diet like Atkins type diet. He lost 45 pounds. His insulin needs decreased substantially. But because I was working in the conventional medicine world, in order to check the box of being a good doctor for him, I had to refer him to a nutritionist. So the nutritionist with the hospital is who I referred him to, and she completely ransacked his low-carb diet. Told him, oh no, you can eat cake, you need to have bread, eat pasta, we'll just dose your insulin to cover your carbs. Within 3 months, he had gained 60 pounds, had now become ineligible for his knee surgery, and was ashamed to come into my practice because he was failing. The problem is she gave him permission to do things that did not serve his health needs. When he came back to me, he could never recover that because he already deemed himself a failure, and it was too hard. And he'd been given some permission from somebody to just take more insulin to cover it. But the problem is more exogenous insulin, meaning insulin that you take in a syringe, the more of that you take, the more adiposity or obesity you get. It's a catch-22. So first things first on nutrition. Western conventional nutrition is not geared to teach you that every calorie is not equal. It is not made to help you optimize your actual nutrition. They look at carb balance, they look at macros, they look at, do you have 40% carbs, 40% protein, and 20% fat. That's what their breakdown is in general. But every calorie is not created the same. If you're following that plan, you could choose to have your diet consist of a donut for breakfast with an egg, and you get your fat, your protein, and your carbs. You could have lunch look like a Big Mac, a Diet Coke, and some French fries. You might be a little heavy on the fat for that meal. And then dinner, frozen pizza or enchiladas or something like that. And you would fall into, you know, throw a couple veggies in there, right? Just because you can say you can, and follow up with some chocolate cake or some cookies or something. And you're on track. If you haven't had more than 1,800 calories in that day, which you can do, you know, you just, as long as you're not eating mass quantities. I'm not talking like supersized hamburger combo. I'm talking about like kids meal, which is a normal human portion. Just FYI, normal human portions is what we need to get used to. So standard American diet being recommended by nutritionists has made me very much distrust the nutritional teaching in medicine. So I go completely off rails. I do not believe there is a one-size-fits-all diet, though. It is not the same for everybody. So when you come to me, when you talk to me and you ask me what should I eat, it's going to be individualized based on your needs. What are your goals? Because if I have a thin person who is needing to improve their immune system and maintain lean muscle mass and potentially gain a little weight, they're what we call skinny fat. Their muscles have atrophied and turned into fat, so they don't even have good lean muscle. They're going to get a diet that is high in protein, fat, and carbs. Okay? Well, my patients who have a BMI over 34 and want to lose weight and watch a bodybuilder talk about how you need sugar, and if you don't eat sugar and carbs, you're going to crash your system. If you're working out 2 to 4 hours a day, if you already have a lean BMI, if you're building lean muscle mass, like have a good substantial amount of lean muscle mass, you do need carbs to maintain your energy because your body's not programmed to store it in your liver. If you're overweight, everything excess you put in, it gets stored in your liver because it's trying to balance your highs and lows, your insulin resistance and your glucose intolerance. That's what happens when you become overweight and obese. It gets stored in your liver, and then you get fatty liver. It doesn't get stored in your muscles and the other organ cells where it's supposed to be, because you're not able to turn on the insulin receptors to let the sugar into the cells because your cells are swollen. They're kind of fat, and it won't put the sugar in, so it's floating in your blood. So the liver does what it does, is it does cleanup. And so we see people with elevated liver enzymes, we see people turning diabetic, we have people with hormone issues, thyroid issues, central obesity that they can't seem to get rid of. And those people I put on a keto diet for a period of time. And then we work on integrating healthy carb options and low fat keto. Ooh, it's tricky. Yeah, it's the right kind of fat keto. It's not going to be like only bacon, eggs, and butter. Okay, I love butter. Don't touch margarine. Don't ever eat margarine. If I hear you're eating margarine, you're canceled. Stop. No margarine. It's bad. It's trans fats, and even if they call it something else, it's really bad. It's basically plastic that you're putting in your body. It's the trash byproducts of vegetable oils. It's gross. Don't eat margarine. Okay, soapbox off. Yeah, so there's not one size fits all, but I have a couple of plans that are suitable for the majority of people if they're not too far off in one direction: diabetes, fatty liver, heart disease, severe thyroid or adrenal dysfunction, or recovery from severe chronic illness. So I'm happy to talk more. I would love it if you would put in the comments what questions you have so that I can answer them authentically and do another one of these little talks about it. This is a little bit long. That's okay. I hope you watched it because it's really important and it's what people are asking for. Sorry, there's a fly in here. It keeps flying around my head. So thank you for your time and attention. Dr. Regan Tilley signing off.